Are we live? Oh, Evan Cale has just joined chat.
Alien Evan Kale.
Hey folks, are we live? I hope we're live. Normally we get a bunch of people in chat going, yo, but no. Okay, YouTube says we're live. Hi folks, good morning.
It's not. I don't see us as live. Oh, now I do. Now I do.
Very delayed, maybe.
All good.
Yay, okay, here we go. As he says, yay. Morning everyone, sorry about the delay, technical difficulties. My YouTube window shows me that my stream is very bad quality. I don't know what that's about. Welcome! Thank you, Brian, for helping with this technical setup. Oh, hello, Matt. And everyone say hello, Brian. I think you already have in the chat anyway. So, welcome to Unexpected Makers channel with Brian hosting, but I'm introing. That's weird. Sorry, I'm a bit frazzled right now with this whole technical stuff.
You should have seen the crap we had to do to set up so that you could hear me through the stream rather than the last time you could hear me through Sion's microphone. So yeah,
It was
I
pretty
hope it works
crazy.
okay.
I'm just going to turn your volume down a fraction. It looks like you might be going into the red a bit. Yeah, so we're still going to be tweaking things a bit, but I wanted to go live. This is also a bit weird for me because I'm using my DSLR today instead of my webcam. So it's better picture quality, but my camera's in a weird spot and I don't know where to look. So if I'm not looking at you like I am right now, I think, I apologize. It looks like I'm looking at Brian. No, that was really weird. Okay.
I think you might need headphones, is what they're saying in the chat, that they can't hear me twice.
Can everyone hear Brian twice?
They can probably hear me through system and through your speakers. I'm gonna move my microphone away.
No, what's if I... Hang on a second. Sorry guys, we're still going to be tweaking. What's if...
Or, sorry, yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Wow, yeah, this is a bit weird. Okay, let me put my headphones in. I was hoping not to have to strangle myself, but I'll do that right now.
I'll keep you entertained while. You think we'd be able to get?
Oh no. What? Okay, hang on. Wait, just wait. Yep. Yeah, I need to change that thing. Yeah, I need to add to that um, external headphones. Okay, how about now? No, it's not working. You're doing a little veg. Okay. This is terrible, folks. Sorry, we'll get there soon. We'll be there. Um, okay. Brian, that's hilarious. Hey, can you talk, Brian? Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't. Um, Sorry, folks. There'll be a short delay. Um, and my machine's going so slow right now. Output aggravated device. Oh, wow. Brian's singing, everyone. If everyone can hear me, Brian's singing, and I can hear him singing. um, that one. Okay. And select that. No, that's still not working. Okay. Sorry, folks. Yes? No. Yeah, now I'm doing both. Hang on. Yeah, no. No, you're gone still. If I do that one. Don't you crash on me, OBS. No, that didn't work. So folks, we got a bit of a problem with audio. Unplug your headphones, seem to disappear when you plug them, sure, but then people can double hear Brian. Okay, my headphones are unplugged. One moment. Can people hear Brian now? Talk, Brian.
Testing. Hello? Yes. I still seem to be really loud.
Okay, I'll turn you down.
Yeah. Turn down your speakers to me as well.
Okay, except you're now soft for me, so I can't hear you very loudly. How's this, guys? We're going to waste half the stream just trying to get our audio right.
Okay. Can people hear me okay? I'm a million miles away from my microphone.
No, get closer because I can turn it down. I can turn you down here. I can't hear you now.
Okay.
How's that,
now?
folks? Talk, Brian. Tell us a joke.
This stream setup?
Wow.
I don't work well under pressure. I can only hear.
Yeah, look, sounds like there's going to be a bit of an echo. Yeah, I don't know what else to do, folks.
I actually just want to hear how bad it is too. It's not that bad.
The reverb is awesome.
It's kind of reverby, but it's fine. It's fine.
So, folks, can we live with this or not? What does everyone think?
This is not a Google Hangout. Well, it is a Google Hangout, but it's like a shared screen of a Google Hangout.
Yeah, Brian's on Google Hangouts and he's hearing me Google Hangouts, but I'm capturing through my DSLR through OBS and screen capturing him. Evan says it's not bad at all, so I'm going to go with Evan. So, and welcome, Evan, to my stream.
Hello, Evan.
Brian, Evan, Brian. I'm not sure if you've met.
haven't had the pleasure. We have talked on email once or twice. I stole some of his video for a video I did. But he gave me his permission, so it's not really stealing.
Cool. You're still very soft for me. Very hard to hear you. I'll have to get closer to my speakers. Okay, let's get this started. Sorry, folks. I'm really sorry about the audio and the glitching at the start, but we're up. We're live. Oh, look at that advertising for LCSC behind me. Brian's got a new badge on Tindy, everyone. I can't even point to the right spot now. Can everyone see? Brian's selling
Yeah,
panda badges.
if we're advertising LCSC, we're
Sorry,
advertising my Tindy too.
I had to remove the free branding.
Okay.
Yeah, does everyone know who Evan is, by the way? Just, sorry, not that this is a, well, I just tried to... Everyone should go check
Bang.
out Evan's channel.
You
I
tried to
can't
ban
even
Evan Kale.
copy link.
You
Can you
can
ask us
ask
both
us
anything? I guess
anything,
technically you can.
Julian.
So Brian's... Okay, so I'm going to tell everyone how this is going to work. Brian's the host. Brian's going to ask me the questions based on what you ask in chat. If you ask him a question directly, I guess, yes, he can answer that. I'll just go make a coffee or something, or or whatever. But yes. Now I'd like to keep the chat on topic today if we can, though. I mean, this is supposed to be an AMA about the TinyPICO, I guess, campaign and journey. So I'd like to get those questions as a focus if we can. But again, that's up to Brian. Brian could just throw a spanner in the works if he wants to.
I could.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
okay,
should we
yeah.
kick it
So
off?
if you've got questions for Unexpected Maker, tag me in them, so I can see them and I'll forward them on. But we're going to start with a pretty tough question, and it was the only question that was asked in the call for questions in the last video or last stream. So it's from Mosba, and his question is, what would you do differently for your next major project? So just actually, I'm sure you all know, but this is specifically around Unexpected Maker's TinyPICO campaign on crowd supply. He's just finished it. He sold, what was it, 4,000 boards or
No, no.
something?
It's now just under 1,300 tiny picos and about
1,300.
1,200 shields.
Ah, yes. I
Yes.
don't know where
So
I'm getting it. I think it was
yes.
the numbers I'm confusing with. But yes. So, a successful crowdfunding campaign, I think, by any metric. So, yeah. So, we're here to ask questions about that. So, let's go with the first one. What would you do differently for your next major project?
Ah, wow. Okay. That's a really, actually, I was dreading this question only because it's really broad. I mean, I learned a lot through this campaign, or from not just from the campaign, but from when I first started designing the Tiny Pico onwards. Um, yeah, I've learned stacks about manufacturing, designing for manufacturing, just generally designing electronics. I mean, it became a bit of a joke, but I went through so many iterations of the Tiny Pico. Okay, why is Brian laughing? Everyone's reading the chat, obviously. So, I don't know. I mean, I didn't trust myself a lot through the development of the board, and I really, yeah, I guess, lowballed my expectation of potentially of how popular the board could be. So, like, I didn't back myself. I think I felt through a lot of it. So that would be different, I guess, going forward. And designing just stuff better, so make it easier to manufacture. Like that's been my number one killer, I think, through the campaign was, as many of you know, the campaign blew up within the first 24 hours, and I'd kind of been fighting ever since to catch up. Like every decision I made was a consequence of the situation I was in. There was no planning at all. So like that completely threw me. So I need to do things differently, like going forward. I designed the boards to be made by me by hand, not otherwise. Like an
I believe
interesting
that
thing is I
term,
actually sorry.
I believe that term is firefighting. You've been firefighting since day one of that campaign,
Of the campaign,
basically.
absolutely I have been. It's been crazy. Like only yesterday did I start tweaking what parts were on the board. Like I discovered something really interesting yesterday. Like so, a lot of you know my pick and place machine's only got a certain number of feeders on there, and they're really hard to swap out. So I don't want to. Like it's really hard for me to build any other boards on my pick and place right now. because it has to always be set up for the TinyPICO. But there are a couple of parts that I actually yesterday swapped off my board and used other parts that were on my pick and place machine, and freed up 2 spots on my pick and place machine for other things. And I just had no time during the campaign to even experiment with doing that. So yeah, like I haven't reduced parts on the board. I've just so my PNP transistor that powers the APA, I'm not using that anymore. I'm using the same P-channel MOSFET that I'm using to control the power on the battery. So like, who would have thought that I could have used the MOSFET for the APA power as well? It just never occurred to me during the campaign, but it works great. I tested it yesterday and it works great. So I just saved some spots. So stuff like that, just refining the board. I guess I also felt really weird because I spent so long making revisions of the board that to continue making revisions after the campaign just felt odd. But I did, and I have. Wow, that was waffle.
And we'll continue to do so. Okay, so we'll move it along. So James Robinson has the next question, and it is: did you have fun with the Tiny Pico?
With the campaign or with the board?
I presume it's the process in general.
Process in general. I feel like I spent too long getting to the campaign point. I kept spinning my wheels and procrastinating, and which I guess in looking back disappointed me a bit. And then during the campaign, I wasn't having fun, or it was very hard for me to see the fun because all I saw was my next day's challenges. But looking back now, yeah, like I mean, not only proud of what I've done, but like it was a blast. Like I achieved what I set out to achieve. I built 4-5 times more than I thought I was going to in the same period of time. And by the way, I've shipped. So not only have I shipped, the product is now at Crowd Supply, and they are preparing to ship to backers. So I managed to ship on time, or even a couple of days early, and 4 times as much as I was thinking of doing. So from that point of view, yeah, like it was great, and it's been fun. But yeah, it's been hard to see through the weeds, I guess, during the campaign. I'm glad I did it, like, no doubt.
Cool. Yeah, so Robin Writer wants to know, why is Brian asking the questions? So maybe you can answer that one.
No, you can answer that one.
Why why am I here? I think it's just to provide kind of more like an interview format, that it might be kind of weird for Sion to just be talking over and over again for, well, I guess that's what he does on his regular streams, right? But yeah, it's easier while he's answering questions as well. I can look through the questions and see what's the next one to get. So I actually will probably need to watch this back to understand what he said. But like, as in, he can concentrate on giving the answers while I'm lining up the next question. So it probably helps that way too. So
And it's
that's
fun.
why.
Like, this way I've got someone to talk to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when you're doing a live stream, it's very isolating. There's a lot of noise in your head from yourself talking, but the chat's quiet, right? So we get some banter going. Yeah.
Julian wants to know why I'm in the Grand Canyon. It's just I live in a very big house. That's all. Um, what else do we have? Okay, HMX. How easy was it reaching out to and working with Espressive?
Um. So obviously at the start I really wasn't. I didn't really start communicating with them till much later in the process. Especially when I realised I needed to start buying Pico chips directly from them. But I actually know someone who works at Espressive. I knew of him. We had spoken, rarely during my production of the Tiny Picos. He was helping me out with some software stuff with Angus, but he actually works. He's actually in charge of the. I don't know if it's the whole software team, but anyway, he's yeah. So he's been helping me a lot, and he introduced me to who I needed to speak to at Espressive for purchasing and stuff like that. And so it's been great that they were much more open. I mean, obviously they didn't want to help me out with purchasing until I hit their minimum threshold because they've got suppliers out there. So they routed me through their suppliers, but until I was ready to buy enough, Yeah, but they've been great. And as many of you know, I got some beta hardware for the new ESP S2, which was fantastic. Again, Angus helped organise that for me. So, like, I'm obviously not, friends with John Lee. Like, we're not, we haven't chatted. But yeah, they've been good to work with.
Yes, and I'm sure you all know at this stage, but Sion has a video, and it's the first video I've seen about the ESP32S chip. S2, is it? So yeah, he
I've
is
got another video
our
coming out on
fountain
Friday.
of yeah, he is our fountain of knowledge for this chip, which is amazing. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Okay, next video, our next video, next question.
Hey, wait, Brian,
Michael,
wait, before you do. So, for those that don't know, Crowd Supply are in the chat. So, everyone say hi to Crowd Supply. I don't know who it is. It might be Daryl. I'm not sure. Hiding behind the Crowd Supply logo. But yes, he just mentioned that I was cracking jokes during the campaign, even when I wasn't having fun. Yeah, look, we had a great banter the whole way through. I'm sure the question will come up, but working with Crowd Supply was fantastic. I'm not just saying that because they're here. It was actually really good. And I was saying to Brian before, I'd have to believe that I've probably been one of their most challenging people who ran a campaign so far. Maybe just because, yeah, I challenged them a lot, asked a lot of questions, and questioned a lot of things about their processes and stuff. So, yeah, good on them for not telling me to take a hike. It was good. Yeah, they were really great to work with. Very open to communication.
Sion was cracking jokes as he was cracking up during the campaign.
Yeah.
Yes. So Michael asked, my question to Sion maybe still secret. Did JLC PCB promise better continuous quality? Touchy subject.
Um, I would like to not talk about JLC PCB today on the stream. Yeah.
That's a work in progress. Yeah,
That's a work in
we'll
progress.
say it's a work
Yes.
in progress, and we'll move on from it.
I've not stopped
uh,
working with JLC PCB, but today is not a good question, a good time to ask me about them. Yep.
okay, so next question is from James Sherman. What made you decide to make an ESP32 board and not Maker Bathwater? Do you think it was the right decision? I don't understand that.
What was it? What? Make it back.
S-
Uh, Okay, well,
Maker Bathwater, and it's in parentheses.
I don't know. Okay, I don't know what the bathwater is, but okay. So the ESP32 choice was actually Matt's, who's in the chat as well, Matt Trentini. He, I mean, most of you know this story, I think, well, some of you, but it all started out because he said to me on Twitter one day, "Hey, Sion, I bet you can't design the smallest ESP32 board ever that runs MicroPython." And I said, "Not interested, thanks." And then like 2 days later, I sent him a schematic and board design. And he went, "Oh wow, that's really cool. I bet you can't make it smaller." And so I did. So that's how it started, as a challenge from Matt. And so yeah, and I'm quite thankful that he did challenge me on it, because I wouldn't have ever attempted anything like this. There's stacks of stuff that I know now and I've done now and achieved that I never probably would have. I might have got to eventually in my journey, right? But I never would have got there so accelerated. So. But no one else bothered. Don't challenge me. Yep.
Yeah, Sion, I bet you can't put up the shelves in my office.
You're right. I can't because it's too far away.
That's true. Yeah, that's funny actually. There's a lot of kind of things around that. Like, there's a few people who, like, if you say, "Hey, is this the smallest whatever?" you will have so many people just be like, "Hey, I'm jumping on that." Including actually when you released the TinyPICO on Twitter, there was definitely people going, let me let me
Absolutely,
challenge
yeah.
this.
Sorry, 1 second. I might have just spilt my drink all over my bench in my
Okay,
excitement, so I just need to quickly mop
I
it
will
up before it goes onto
entertain
my
the
test tube.
masses with.
Sorry?
I'll entertain the masses with my angelic voice, which is echoey.
Sorry, 1 second, folks. I got so excited I threw my drink. Wow. Well, I needed a new test jig anyway, so I wonder how well the Raspberry
Good.
Pi works with waterlogged.
Liquid.
Okay, I'm back.
It's liquid cooled now.
Well, it's funny. So, do you remember that, like when I was showcasing on Twitter, like a few people jumped in, like even Greg Davil jumped in and took up the challenge. Oh, I reckon I can make a small one too. Um, and he did. He started designing one, which is good and bad, I guess, at the time. But I made sure I told him though that it's got to be productionable. Productionable. You got to be able to manufacture it though. Like it can't just be look how close I can get the parts together, but it's not buildable. So. But I mean, there's now there's smaller ESP32 boards than mine now, like the Femto Beacon is like the coin cell size, right? But it's less feature packed, like it's less usable as a board. You know, it's got fewer I/O and it's not breadboard friendly, and there's stuff on it that isn't there, like the USB stuff and everything. The oh no, USB's there, PS RAM, whatever. Anyway, like if someone wants to go out and make a smaller board than mine, go for it. Like really, like be awesome. I'll back you. I'll support you. I don't think I want to make a smaller version of mine.
I think that the TinyPICO is like the type of development boards we're used to, except tiny and has other good features too, like the power management is good on it too. But like something like the femtocell, or what is it called, the
Femto Beacon, yeah,
femto beacon, like that is an ESP32 that you can program, but like you're not go like unless you need something incredibly tiny, like as you said, it's not breadboard friendly. You're not going to be using it the same way you use anything else. Like it's for specifically, I need the smallest thing ever. But yeah.
yep,
So I, I don't know how the criteria what a development board is, but it's still the smallest one I've ever used. So good job.
thanks.
Um, okay, so next one is the hookup. Sion said he wanted to make a job out of producing hardware. After Tiny Pico, does that seem more or less possible? That's a great question.
Um, yeah, I don't know the answer to that one because, like, financially, Tiny Pico wasn't a success. Like, so it wasn't a fail, but it wasn't a huge success. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't support myself on one campaign, right? And looking back, what I made on it, I'm definitely spent that whole time working for really, like less than minimum wage. So, so building a sustainable business from it is still a really big question, and probably not, definitely not a sustainable business building like it's not consumer, but consumer level hardware, as in you know high volume, low margin is definitely not a sustainable business. Definitely not for me, not in Australia. Like I've mentioned my whole journey that I always wanted to be able to manufacture here, and I'd always planned on manufacturing myself, but I never, like doing this type of quantity is just too hard for one person, and I'm not really set up properly for it. I need very different space and equipment to be able to manufacture reliably large quantities, thousands of boards a month type thing. And that's just, yeah, way more expensive than the equipment that I've got right now and stuff. So, like, do I want to continue manufacturing? Absolutely. Do I want to try to build something out of manufacturing? For sure. That's always been my dream. But, you know, making a couple of dollars on a board and killing yourself to mass produce them is just not it's not a smart business move at all, really. But I'm going to keep trying. Like, I'm going to keep going. Yeah. Hope that answers the question.
Okie dokie. I'm scrolling all over the place here. Robin Reiter, hope I'm pronouncing that right, asked as well, are you still fully relying on the T962 for all your boards? So that's your reflow oven, right?
Yeah, well, no, I do. I've got two ovens, so I use my. Thanks, hookup. I use my toaster oven still, and I use my 962A I'm using my 962A more now, as in more than I was, because it's now that I've used it a bit, I feel much more comfortable with it. But I had to do, quite a lot more tweaking of profiles and stuff. Yeah, working with the blackboards is a real killer because you can't rely on the reflow graphs on any oven at all. Um, even like taking them out of the oven when my either oven says that the temperature is now like 40 degrees, I know that my boards are still over 100 because of the black holding the heat in. So it's been a pretty big learning curve, but I think I mentioned on a few streams ago that I had no choice but to get my T962A working because I had too much stuff to reflow. And so I stuck it in my garage with the garage door open, and I took some of my older shield boards, which were black, and I just spent about 4 or 5 hours just reflowing stuff and destroying boards until I got the right temperature where the solder paste reflowed, the high temp paste reflowed really well, and the boards didn't melt. And yeah, I did it with the garage door open out the back, so that way the smell didn't come into my office, but it stank for ages. And I kept a couple of the melted boards just for souvenirs. So yeah, the 962A is working well now, and it's fairly reliable, but I can only reflow just in the middle. I can't put boards on the whole tray. So I can really only do 2 boards at a time, 2 panels at a time in there, and I'm already doing 2 panels at a time in my toaster oven. So between the two, I can reflow 4 boards at a time. Not ideal. Like, I really need a conveyor belt reflow oven if I'm going to do bigger numbers. Yeah.
Cool. Ian Scott Johnston asked, are you afraid of the up-and-coming after-sales support, or is there full confidence with TinyPICO's functionality?
So I've just been ignoring what's to come. No, not really. It's like I don't know. You know, am I confident in the board? Sure. Are there going to be potential boards that go out into the wild that have some problems with them? No doubt. Like every single TinyPICO that is left here that's gone to crowd supply has been tested 3 times. Like that's chewed up so much of my time, and I tested them 3 times because I'm Matt's afraid, and I've tested them 3 times because I'm just paranoid. Like I want every person that gets a board to have a fully working board, but at the end of the day, like I don't know. I'm sure they're gonna. So like it surprised me how many people were asking questions like directly to me from the campaign page, people that were backing the board that have never used an ESP32 before. Right, like I mean that's going to be the tricky part. I think there's obviously some people who have been using ESP32 for ages. This is just another board in their list, and and it should be fine. But there are so many like questions I was getting from people, about this is my first ESP32 board with Wi-Fi. What IP address are you programming on the board for me? Like, how do you know what IP address I need on my network? Like stuff like that, like and it's not necessarily a silly question. They've obviously just never used a microcontroller with Wi-Fi on it before and don't understand how it works yet. So I don't know what support I'm going to get, what support I'm going to have to offer, but I'm really trying to do my best to make the TinyPICO website have as much information as possible. I've got a new getting started guide that I linked to on the crowd supply, the last update. I'm going to be adding more to it, but trying to cover as much there. I've got some coding example page on there, and I've still got more code to write to put on GitHub, but I'm writing libraries, helper libraries for Arduino and MicroPython to make using the functionality easier. I don't know. I'm trying to do the best I can to make sure that everyone's got as much information as possible, but I'm not afraid. I just don't know what to expect yet. It'll definitely be interesting. I think just quickly, I think a lot of us who work in this, when I say work, I mean play with microcontrollers, take a lot of our knowledge for granted now. Like a lot of the stuff that we know that, that other people might not. Yeah, I don't know. Something exciting just happened just quickly on that. I got a notification this morning from Expressive that they've now merged the TinyPICO board for the next update. So whenever the next Arduino update for ESP32 comes out, when you go to the boards list, TinyPICO will be listed there. So you'll be able to just select TinyPICO, which is pretty cool. I found out this morning.
That is awesome. Um, yeah, it is interesting. It's kind of like it's a bit of a strange dynamic in terms of like, if I buy a board off whoever, I don't expect them to really give me any technical support other than does it work or does it not work? And if it
Sure.
doesn't work, hey, there's a problem. But like, I'm not going to be like, hey, how do I program this thing? But because it's you putting yourself out there, like, is in, do people kind of nearly expect more sort of like, I don't think it's fair for them to expect more, but it's just kind of that's the dynamic because it's you selling them. It's like you're an individual and, you're approachable because of your streams and stuff. It'll be interesting to see how many kind of how do I program this ESP32 kind of questions are you going to
Sure.
get when like, you're not going to send that to the seller on AliExpress, but
Well, that's the interesting thing, right? Like, when you buy something from AliExpress, you buy a TTGo board, you expect no support, right? You go to the internet and you find out what information you need. But go look at Adafruit's or SparkFun's support forums, right? When you buy from them, like that, they have Adafruit have got to have at least 5 or 10 full-time support people just helping people on the forums, right? I mean, obviously their scale's massive, but yeah, there's a very different expectation, I think, when you're buying from China or when you're buying from not China, I guess. So yeah, I mean, the hookup just mentioned something about starting a Facebook group, some place where people can get together and ask questions and answer each other's questions. It's not a bad idea. I'm not sure Facebook's still the right place. I hate Facebook. I'm on there, but I just don't think it's a great place. Maybe a Discord. Maybe I will eventually just start a Discord chat, a group or something for TinyPICO, or maybe just set up a Discuss forum, Discus, whatever it's called. Yeah, something like that. Maybe I'll put that on the TinyPICO website, so there's a place for people to go.
yeah, I think just the prevalence of the 3D printing Facebook groups, like I don't use Facebook at all anymore, but it seems like it's still a thing for people.
Oh, there's
It's not
stacks of people
going
going
away
there, but
anytime
it's
soon.
full of spam. Like the non-moderated forums or the groups there are just full of people like spamming stuff, and then the moderated ones now, like if I post something to the Arduino group there or the ESP32, like what I posted my the video for the ESP32S2 to the ESP32 group, and it took 4 days for the moderator to get around to approving it. I don't know. I don't want to spend my time moderating Facebook instead of building, or you know what I mean. Like yeah, it's a tricky thing. Again, when you're one person, it's yeah. I don't want to be spending
Discord,
my time chatting
yeah,
in Discord or something.
yeah. Well, like I guess some of the hope would be that the community would take on some of it too. Like actually, I have a little bit of that with the Telegram library. I have a Telegram group, and there's a few people in it who will answer the basic questions for people, and like it's such a relief for me, or it's not a relief because it's not something that worries me that much, but like it's a big kind of help that these simple questions that I've answered a million times already, even though the information's out there, they will help answer those questions. And it's a big help. And I'm sure the people here would also chip in on that if it's somewhere like that we can chip in on it.
Sure.
Okay, we'll get back to questions. I don't know if you can answer this one, but I'll ask it anyways. John McRae, follow-up question: what is the espressive minimum?
Okay, before I answer that one, so just Saket just mentioned about the experimenting echoes. Yeah, we've got an audio issue right now. For those that have been joined later than the technical fun at the start. Unfortunately, I can't put headphones on because then you can't hear Brian, and this is the only way we can get the audio working. So there's a little bit of an echo from Brian, and I apologise, but this is the best setup we can get right now. So, yes. So the answer, yeah, it's 2,000. So it's a reel. You got to buy a reel, and there are 2,000 Pico D4s on a reel. So anything under 2,000, and yeah, they'll just put you onto one of their resellers. I think like Mauser are the official distributors. Um, and if you do a campaign, just for those that want to know, if you do a campaign with Crowd Supply, who are now owned by Mauser, or have been for a few months or 6 months or something, I'm not sure how long, Crowd Supply can get you special prices on pretty much anything that Mauser stock. Very different prices to what you get on Mauser. So I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention that, but that's a really huge benefit for using, if you want to do a crowdfunding campaign and using Crowd Supply, they can really help you out with purchasing parts. And, you know, not everything's going to be maybe as cheap as you can get from LCSC or whatever, but like for me, there were quite a few parts that I got through Crowd Supply from Mauser that I never expected to get from Mauser. So, yeah, definitely keep that in mind. Yeah. Hey, Alan. Morning.
So Charles Gagnon, I didn't miss your question. We're purposely skipping JLC questions. It's a discussion for another day. Apparently, there's a bat water meme. I have never heard of that.
That's
Dave
about the
Darko's.
people drinking the bath water of that gamer.
Oh
Was it
yes.
Gamer Girl? And getting
Cool.
sick or
Yeah.
something? Right. Yeah, I think that's what it was about.
Yes. Cool.
Okay, good. I'm
Yes.
allowed to mention that the cheap pricing. Good.
Dave Darko is asking me to move into a smaller room. That's pretty small. Uh, Jeez, as he wants me to sing a few bars of something. No. Um, okay. Woo. James Robinson. Any interest in the Tiny Pico from RC Airplane, folks? I mentioned that this is more of a question for the community. Is there any RC folks here? I don't know if anybody answered that. But have you heard anything from RC enthusiasts?
No, nothing specifically for RC. I'm not sure it's the. I mean, although it's small, there's probably a few things on the board that you wouldn't want to have on there if you were trying to using it for RC stuff. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, obviously running off power, it's pretty low current stuff. I mean, I turn off a lot of things that don't need to be on there. I'm just looking at it now, but yeah. I mean, no one's reached out to me at all. I mean, there could have been people on the campaign that bought it for stuff like that. Definitely in the home automation space, there's been quite a little bit of interest, which is good.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Colin Hickey, this is kind of a weird one for me to answer or ask. How does it feel to see people building shields and a small ecosystem forming around something you've created?
It's awesome. I mean, that was always my plan, I guess. Um, you know, like I started talking about shields really early on, and then I kind of not forgot about them, but let them go while I got the board finished. Yay! Look at that. Um, but I mean, that was one of the reasons I wanted to release open source, and not just the board, but also my shields open source. I wanted other people to be able to use a TinyPICO to build on for their own projects. I mean, there's no requirement to, if you make a shield, for it to release it. You know, I mean, you can obviously make your own shields for your own projects if you want to, but it's all about sharing. Like I've been, you know, although it's kind of I still mentally struggle with the whole open source thing and giving all my designs away after, you know, working so hard to make them. Like there's still an old school mentality fight I have in my head, mental fight I have in my head. But yeah, like the whole sharing of knowledge and letting people build and I mean, and Brian's selling stuff and he's making. I mean, he's not obviously retiring, but he's making money on the stuff that he's selling because of the TinyPICO, and that's just fantastic. Like I couldn't be happier. I hope more people do it. Not for me specifically. I mean, obviously it helps with the build the ecosystem, which is a win-win for everyone. But yeah, anyone that can, you know, make something and leverage any work that I've done. I think that's awesome. Really happy about it.
It's funny from my perspective, like the shame that Sion felt every time I said that, like, oh, I'm ordering another batch of these. He's like, oh, no, don't order too many of them now or anything. And like,
Right.
I'm on my third batch of TinyPICO matrix boards. Like, so there was a demand for them. Like, obviously, it hasn't sold as much as the D1 Mini matrix board, but it has sold a significant amount. It is my third or fourth best selling thing on Tindy. And
Which is
like the other
crazy because no
things,
one has TinyPICOs yet, right?
yeah, yeah, that's it. Like it was great. I could send out the Tiny Pico boards and not have my documentation up and running yet because nobody had one. Yeah, which is that's interesting as well. I'm hoping once everybody gets them, it works okay for them. I'm sure it will.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, no, it's no, it is interesting, like to be able to make shields for something like that as well, because it's kind of a like in a lot of ways it's kind of an untapped market. Like, as in it's a if you're making a shield for something like a tiny Pico, you know the people that are getting them are kind of interested in that sort of stuff. You kind of have a good idea what they like because they probably are familiar with Sion and what he likes, and it's like there is opportunities even from like not because Sion is a buddy of mine since like is in as I said, I've sold like 30 of them, so there was a financial gain to be there too. So yeah, it was
Yeah,
cool.
it's
But
a win-win. It's a definitely a win-win, and I think there are a lot of potential marketplaces where the Tiny Pico fits really well, like in home automation, because of its size, where there is a huge opportunity for people out there to leverage that, in building boards for home automation. But even if they don't want to use the Tiny Pico, I mean, the source files are there. They can obviously, take what I've got there and integrate it onto their boards if they want to, rather than doing it as a shield. Um, yeah, like I'll be excited if people actually use my design to build stuff. As long as they obviously don't.
nobody's
Sorry?
nobody's gonna build those tiny resistors
No, but
and
they can
stuff
still, like,
like
they can use bigger parts. I mean, it's, they don't have to use it
yeah.
verbatim. But, yeah, I think, yeah, it's exciting. And just quickly, Matt, yeah, once you get your breakout board up and running, MicroPython drivers for the LED displays, thanks.
I hope he
Just
got
saying.
them.
Yeah.
uh, yeah. So okay, let's move on from that one. Serious question from James Sherman. What advice would you give to a maker thinking of doing their own campaign?
Um, I don't know. It's just like do it. Like, well, what's the worst that can happen? Just if you think you've got an idea and you just make sure you're prepared to be able to build it. Like if it goes nuts, the last thing you want to do is get into a point where you can't actually do what you set out to do. But if you think you can, just go for it. Like the worst thing that can happen is you don't reach your target, right? Um, and a campaign fails, and that's, I mean, then you're in no different position than you were beforehand, especially if you're using the campaign to work out how many you need so you can then manufacture. Um, I wouldn't suggest building 1,000 or something and then launching a campaign, but the worst case scenario is you end up back where you were, and the best case scenario is you sell a whole bunch and you get some stuff out there and you potentially make some money and you can, do it again on your next product. Um, and yeah, as crowd supply just said now, it's an awesome way to do market validation. Um, it'll, tell you straight away from the response from people backing it whether they think that there's a place for it or not. You're basically not just using the crowd to fund your project, but you're using the crowd to decide whether it should be funded or not. Um, which I could totally see would be a really demoralizing thing, and I know it is because I've had a failed Kickstarter before in the gaming space. Um, So this is only my second crowdfunding campaign. One was with games, one with hardware. So I've had the kick in the gut for a failed campaign, and I don't know. I just the worst thing. I mean, I ended up making that game anyway, and the game made over $1 million. So clearly, a lot of it had to do with my presentation at the time, or it just wasn't ready to launch on a campaign. But market validation is obviously super important for hardware, and that was the thing that had me worried the most. I mean, that's why I really didn't think I was going to sell more than a few hundred boards on the campaign, because I really didn't know if there was a space or not for the TinyPICO. In an ESP32 space where most of the boards come from China and they're super cheap. Like, can you really bring out a board in that space? Well, apparently you can. So, yeah. So I might do it again.
After you get a few months sleep. Um, the embedded hobbyist will see on easily sell demo boards now, and what he's really trying to do is sneak in ESD. I don't know, is that a running joke between the two of you? I know it's a running joke on your stream, but
The ESD joke is a stream. It is, sorry, is either on my stream. It's definitely a. I don't know. Like, you know what? I've actually got ESD like chips for the USB and stuff that I never put on the board. Like, I've actually got the chips sitting here. They were at one point in one of my designs. I can't find boards that have ESD protection on them. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the decisions I made on my boards were based on all the other products in the marketplace. You know,
I know I
and
haven't gone through like exactly what you have done, but like I think it's important for people to realize as well that like at some stage you need to start cutting things back. Like you can't have everything on a board
you
because
can
like
try.
you can try, but your bomb starts running out of control, and like all of a sudden, if you need an ESD chip and that's an extra dollar, you're either cutting into your own profit or you're making it more expensive. And like sometimes you just need to make sensible decisions on stuff. And yeah, like in an ideal world, maybe you'd have ESD everything and you do whatever, but like let's be practical about it.
Sure. I mean,
Um,
if I was ever going to go for certification, on the board, I'm not talking about RF, I'm talking about in general, then you need to have the USB certified, which means you need to have ESD protection on the USB. And if I ever go to USB-C on the board, I'm going to have to put some type of ESD protection on there anyway. It's just a requirement, not even for certification. But yeah, it's just it's always working out the juggle between, does this really have to be on there? How many people are really going to use it? Am I putting it there because I want to put it there, or because it's actually necessary or not? Like, one of the things I've got on the TinyPICO that I'm regretting putting it on, because I just don't know. Like, it sounds like it's a useful feature, but I really don't know if it's going to be. And that's the voltage divider I've got, where you can check the battery voltage. Um, it's the fact is the ESP32's got the weird ADC that's only 0 to 1 volt unless you change the attenuation, and by putting a voltage divider on the board, I'm actually chewing the battery to have the ability to be able to read the voltage. And so I've gone with pretty high resistor values to obviously reduce how much current they take, but they get affected by noise more, which means they get slightly worse readings of the voltage. And at the end of the day, do people really need to know what the voltage on their battery is? Like, when the chip's in deep sleep, you can't check it anyway, but you're still chewing power off the battery from the voltage divider. And when the Pico's awake, well, sure, you could check the battery voltage, but what are you going to do? Like, at the end of the day, if the battery's going to run out, you need to go and charge it. And if the battery, like, you'll know that when the battery runs out. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, I thought I put a cool feature on there, but I'm really not sure how, like, if anyone's going to really use it. So, yeah.
I think people will use it. Like even a thing because it's got Wi-Fi, like is in, hey, I'm going to notify you that I'm about to run out of battery. Like that's a nice feature.
Right, if the chip's awake, right?
Yeah.
and if you have a mechanism for it to actually go online and do something and ping you, but then that also chews power, right? The second you bring up the Wi-Fi or whatever it's going to be. So, you know, even notifying over, but Bluetooth, like Morgan just suggested, it still chews power. So yes, I mean, can it be used? Absolutely. Is it a cool thing to have? Sure, but I asked the question: how many people are going to use it? Like as a percentage, how many people are really going to use that? And adding a feature for the 1% of the users, is that, I don't know. I don't know the answers to those questions right now.
Colin, I don't know if you want to answer this question. He clarifies it with saying possibly contentious question since they're in
Yeah.
the chat. But would you use crowd supply for your next campaign? Giving he specifically mentions given that you have to ship to the US first and shipping costs free US etc.
So, okay, would I use them again? Absolutely. If I'm doing a crowd supply, a crowdfunding campaign, there's definitely in my mind. I mean, I'd never use Kickstarter. I don't think it's the right fit, and um, I'm not really interested in any of the other options. I mean, I looked at them before. I would absolutely use crowd supply again, but there's got to be a way for me to be able to ship Australian orders to Australian people. Like I mean, other regions, fine, but I'll be honest. Like I've felt guilty is not the right word. I've felt terrible that I've not been able to um, support the Australian community who backed me, and just to let everyone know, the second highest region that has backed TinyPICO on the campaign has been Australia. So it's been the US, then Australia, then the UK, which is crazy. And the fact that I have to send everything to crowd supply to have them send it back again, not even just from a timing point of view, but from a cost point of view, I think that's the only thing I'm super unhappy about. And crowd supply, no, I've not hidden my thoughts on that at all from them. And even though I got told no a couple of times, I still kept asking. Yes, that's the only thing, and I totally get why it's happening and why they need to do it. I understand it, but it's the one thing that really irks me. I'll be honest. But other than that, yeah, look, they've really been great. They really have. So yes, I'll definitely use them again, and I highly recommend them, and not just because they're in the chat. They're just they're like with the Kickstarter. You launch it, you got no communication with anyone at Kickstarter. They don't help you, they don't support it. You might get a link on their website, you might not. With crowd supply, like it's two-way communication the whole time. Like everyone at the company seems to reply to me at some point or another. You get given it all happens via GitHub, and you can just they put issues in to chat with me, and I put issues in to chat with them, and there's conversations going back and forth all the time. And they just meant, totally fair, understood. Yeah, there's a lot of annoying complications in international shipping. Sure, but it wouldn't be international for me. It's local. I don't have any regulations I need to jump through. Because it's, I understand. Look, the issue is I'm selling through an American website. You know what I mean? Like crowd supply in America, people are buying from them in America, so therefore technically it needs to ship from America, and I get that, but yeah, if we could work something out, that'd be awesome. Yep. Sorry. Next question.
Michael Stevens asked about the VAT situation in the EU. You've answered this before, really. It was just that crowd supply have assured you that it will be all A-okay for the EU VAT situation. So I guess we'll find out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're in the chat. That'll be interesting to hear what they say. I've not heard anything different other than the one thing I do know is that the systems that they're changing. Oh, looks like we've got some compression happening on the stream. Anyway, the systems that they're implementing to be able to do that is something that's new, and I'm not even sure if it's fully ready to go yet. Like I know that so I was discussing with Crowd Supply through the campaign about being able to ship early. Like at one point, I was going to um, ship half of the stuff that I had to them so they could start shipping to backers early. And the reason I didn't in the end was because the only people they could ship early to were the US backers, because their systems still weren't ready to do the VAT paid and everything else. Like that was still they were still working on that. That's why I was one of the first campaigns to have that. I'm not sure if it's fully up and running yet, and obviously it will be in time for the campaign orders to ship out. So yeah, fingers crossed that's still going to be a thing, and it's going to be smooth sailing for everyone. And if it isn't, I apologise. Like there's nothing I can do about it. Um, hey, wait. So Digicool Things just mentioned something interesting. Hey, Crowd Supply, maybe I can maybe we can set up an Australian arm of Crowd Supply for
I'll set
local
up the Irish
distribution.
one. The
Maybe I could be a
only
Crowd Supply warehouse.
I could
Anyway,
be too. Okay, so David Watts, I'm sorry I'm way behind in questions, but the questions come in faster than we can answer them. So I'm just going by them as they come down. So David Watts asked, why is it called Tiny Pico? And did you find yourself coming up with a killer name slash brand for it later than you wished you thought of before? And in parentheses, I like the name. Let me just make sure I read that last part right. Did you find yourself coming up with a killer name slash brand that for it later that you wish you thought of before? Okay. Did you
right.
think of a
Okay.
different name for it before? Yeah, that makes more sense. And he
No,
likes the
like
name.
I picked TinyPICO really early. Actually, I think before anyone knew what I was working on. I mean, I think I set it to Matt like 4 days in or 5 days into the project, and they kind of stuck from there. And I've really liked it, and I've never even considered trying to rename it or even thought about any other names. I mean, obviously, I've been working on different boards and discussed in my streams and on my videos about other potential TinyPICO family boards that I might make, like a Plus or a Pro, and there was a Nano that I built. I think it just works really well. Like it's a weird name. Like a lot of people don't realize that the Pico part is because of the Pico D4, and and tiny because it's small, but and Pico means small. But yeah, no, I've never had yeah a thought about changing it. I really liked it from the second I did it. So
I think products, it's like naming a child. Like once you name it, like you can't imagine it ever being called anything else. Like
yeah,
it's just that's what it is. It could never be anything else to you. So that's interesting. Crowd Supply actually answered the VAT question, said, I can answer that. Yes, units will be shipped with UK VAT paid. Uh, Michael mentioned UK specifically. I paraphrase to be EU. Um, the design, Morgan Allen, I guess, are the design files up to date? Curious about the changes to the APA 102 power switching.
the board that everyone is getting shipped is the designs that are on GitHub. Yes. Do I have a new revision I'm working on right now? I do, which is not fully ratified yet. And at some point, when that is, I'll be switching production over to that. And that board is really about helping me manufacture faster than anything else. Functionality-wise, it'll be identical. So I switched from P to N. No, I haven't switched anything like this. Right now, I'm experimenting with getting rid of the PNP transistor and using a P-channel MOSFET instead, but that's just a part swap. Everything else is the same. But yeah, the GitHub files right now reflects the boards that everyone's going to get. So they're fully production ready. And I'll continue to release updated files if I move on to those. If I don't, then obviously there's no point in releasing them. Yeah.
Sure. So we're at the section of the chat with the Facebook group thing. A lot of hate for Facebook. Just want to throw that out there. Robert Bonham. This isn't a question, but I thought you'd like to see it anyways. I'm probably the worst case scenario. My first ESP32 and using the TinyPICO to learn MicroPython. Well, Sion has those videos on MicroPython that he used with a TinyPICO, so he has the stuff there. So
And I've got
it's
more
not like there
coming
won't
once I
be.
get some time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like there won't be content for it.
Sure. And there's already lots of other content, MicroPython content out there on YouTube and on the web. A lot of people blogging about it. And obviously you can use other, ESP. You can use any ESP32 board for MicroPython, and there's other boards that can run it as well. So, and then you've got the whole CircuitPython, which is, obviously it's Python's a bit different, but plenty of boards there as well. So a lot of opportunities to learn Python on microcontrollers, not just, relying on me and my videos. Yep.
A lot of love for Discord as the support position. Um, just throwing that out there. Okay, what are we going on? Uh, okay. Would Sion do any from Robert actually? Would Sion do anything different if he were to design something for a commercial customer versus hobbyist specs, wear and tear, etc.?
Well, obviously, designing for commercial for a customer is very different just in looking at stuff like certification, right? I mean, if they're, if I'm designing and making something that is going to be either resold by them or it's going to be implemented into the marketplace in a product, then yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be designing a general purpose thing, and there'd be a lot of consideration. So, but I mean, I'm not obviously playing in that space right now. I don't do contract work for people, and or not yet anyway, and I'm not really designing. Like, I'd be designing to their specs at that point and their requirements. Like, so one of the reasons I'm probably not going to pursue the Nano, I mean, I'd love to, but I'm probably not going to, is the fact that um, I think there's a massive marketplace for it, but the requirements of what I'd need to do to make it saleable is like 10 times more. Like, it would have to be fully certified in worldwide to be able to be used as a module that goes on to other things. Like, there's no chance that it could be misconstrued as it's just a prototyping board, right? Like, it would be specifically designed to be used in products, and the level of cost and work I'd need to do for certification is just massive. So that's probably the main thing that's going to put me off doing the Nano. Just from a knowledge point of view, and for like, I don't know if I want to make my second product the product that I have to go through certification hell on. And for those that don't know, certification is actually really expensive. Like, you need to be doing some decent numbers. Um, you need to be able to move 20 to 50,000 units on a board to justify certification on it. So, yeah.
Fun. Helmut Schultz said that he wants to design a 16-bit shield, 16 multi-channel A, D, and DA shield. I presume that's analog to digital and digital to analog
Yeah,
shield.
ADC
Like,
and digital. Yeah,
yeah,
I saw that when it came through before. Do it, make one.
that'd be
Awesome.
make one. If you're using Easy EDA, there's a TinyPICO footprint up there designed by me.
Sure.
It's probably terrible, but it works anyways. I've done used it on two boards and it's fine. um,
I've got my
okay.
IO expander board that I still want to finish off and release. It's got the 12-bit for ADCs on there, and the GPIO expander, so 16 IO. So that will be coming out at some point. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously 16-bit or higher ADCs would be awesome. Sure, I mean, very specialized, but be really cool.
We're not seeing too many oranges. Have we gotten to the end of the questions? I don't think I've missed any.
The hookup just asked
Uh,
what sort of certs am I talking about. So obviously you would need to have full RF certification, so CE and FCC and whatever, and then ESD, and can't believe they just came up. So all those type of certifications. I mean, obviously RF being the biggest one. If it's a module, it would need to be shielded, which makes manufacturing a little bit harder. probably wouldn't be able to manufacture those myself. So yeah, it's mostly those type of certifications I'm talking about.
Gavin asked, now Cian has proven a demand for his board, would he consider looking at partnership with Adafruit or SparkFun to allow manufacturing and certification for a TinyPICO Nano?
So interestingly, from what I'm aware, Adafruit and SparkFun don't manufacture other people's boards. I think SparkFun maybe did at one point if there was stock in them. I don't think they do anymore. So that they both resell other people's boards, and I'm hoping in the future, if all goes well, you might be able to buy a TinyPICO at either Adafruit or SparkFun or both. But when it comes to manufacturing, they don't do that. And manufacturing has nothing to do with certification. Certification has to be done before manufacturing. The it's not the task of a manufacturing company or to do that. That all has to be done and certified before you even look at going into manufacturing. Yeah.
I see there's another one from Ben. What kind of volume would you offload to a CM versus DIY, or just plan to scale up your own production?
So yeah, this is the tricky thing for me. So for those that don't know, CM just means contract manufacturer. So whether it's China or anywhere else. Yeah, my plan was to always manufacture myself. Oh, Brian's getting all laid back. Yay. But the truth is, I never expected to be manufacturing the quantities that I'm looking at doing now, and I'm willing to just not set up for it. But I would still rather be manufacturing myself than going to use a CM. At least for the TinyPICO, and probably the next couple of things that I'm considering, because they're a more complicated board to get done with a CM than other things. Just the testing, and now that I know the board quite well, like I'm really, like, I understand exactly how, what issues there are in terms of manufacturing. It's a double-sided board. It's using really small parts, and it has a very, in terms of a CM, a very long and not so hands-off testing suite that needs to go through. So that's just not a great fit for CM, not for a cheap CM. So you got to remember, it's not like, okay, I can go to PCBWay or Electro or someone else and get my PCBA stuff done really cheap, right? But there's a reason it's cheap, and a lot of that will be, what I get back from that might, 50% of my boards might not be usable. So in my case anyway. So yeah, like, CM's a tricky one. The cost for me to go to get a goods like a tier 2 or tier 1 manufacturer to make my TinyPICOs would cost me as much or more than it cost me to make them myself. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And then I've got the shipping 2 ways, and the lead times is a killer. 5 to 6 weeks lead times to get my boards made overseas. In 5 to 6 weeks I can make them myself. So yeah, that's the. So I'm still planning on doing it myself.
For the uneducated amongst us, so like the PCBA services that are available to hobbyists, really, so your PCB ways or whatever, what tier are they?
Um, well, what they say they are and what they actually are quite different. So none of them are tier 1s. Like tier 1 is, people, manufacturing plants in China that make cell phones, like really, hundreds and hundreds of
Foxconn
lines
or
and type thing.
whoever.
Sorry?
Foxconn or whoever making iPhones
Well,
or
they're even a level above tier 1. I mean, yeah. But,
they're god
like,
tier.
yeah. So like PCBWay have got 2 different manufacturing plants. The one that I toured when I went through Shenzhen was probably no more than a tier 3. I believe that they probably got some tier 2 facilities. They definitely promote that they do. If you look at Scotty's last video when he did a tour of PCBWay, but that doesn't mean that your product is going to go on those lines. You don't get to choose which machines manufacture and which lines manufacture your product, right? And you don't know what they need to do on their side to ship the boards. You don't know how many humans are getting involved, and you know what I mean. Like, you just, like, it's very, black boxy. You don't get to go and visit and go on the line and watch your boards being made. So there's that as well. And yeah, like it's just tricky when you're doing small run stuff. You also got to remember that your parts cost goes up. Obviously when you've got small quantities, and when you don't supply the parts to these people, they source it all. That's why there's such a long lead time, and you don't even have control on what pricing the parts are going to be or where they're going to get them from, and how long they're going to take, and then they mark them up as well. Like so, every quote I got from China to get my TinyPICOs made, because I did get quotes. Every single one of them quoted me prices for my components that was, at best 1% more than what I was already buying them for, and at worst 25% more than what I was buying them for. So there are a lot of other things. You might hear that I can get the boards made for $1 a board, but for the assembly process, but you might be paying 20% more for the parts and 20% more for the PCBs, and then you pay them extra for testing, and then you got to pay them to ship them back to you, and yeah. And if it's a lot of items, you got to pay your customs and stuff when it comes in, and there's a lot of extra costs that you don't think about.
James Sherman asked a question that I missed actually. If you had a time machine, what one piece of advice would you give pre-campaign Xeon?
Wow, what one bit? I mean, there'd be a lot, but so if I knew the numbers I was going to do, I absolutely would have bought a different pick and place machine. So I mean, that would have saved me a lot of stress, I think, during the campaign. What I bought definitely didn't future-proof me. It was it was enough to get by through the campaign, but that's about it. So there's probably that, and maybe I would have made a couple of more changes to the board and my stencil before going into production. But otherwise, I don't know. It's a really tricky question, because there's, I would have maybe changed my packaging a bit to make them not so hard to package, because there was a lot of time spent packaging them. And maybe wouldn't have used black boards, so I didn't have to, clean every single TinyPICO before I shipped it. Yeah, I don't know. I probably would have built myself a cleaning system so I could clean off the sides of the boards from the V-score. Because, to be honest, the V-scoring I've been getting on my last batches of boards have been quite bad, and really hard to break the boards apart, which means there's a lot more debris on the sides of the boards. And the thought of me shipping out boards that I'm sure I've missed a stack, but the thought of shipping out boards that have got V-score yuck, fiberglass sticking off the side of them, it just looks terrible. But yeah. See you, Matt. Thanks for joining.
What do you use to clean the V-scores? Is it just sandpaper or file?
Oops.
It's a knife. Nice.
So what's nice, because my boards are only 1mm, I can literally just go like this. I don't cut. I scrape. You scrape with a knife, and it all comes off. But I'm constantly sitting like this. I've got my bin here, right? I'm constantly sitting when I pull my boards apart with my knife over the bin, scraping. Like it just takes so long. Like it's just they're the things you don't think about when you're manufacturing boards. That's not a knife. No, I know it's not a knife. It's a little knife. Yeah. Those things are complete time sinks. Sorry?
I had so many plans for TinyPICO videos and stuff around just Australian, I don't know, stereotypes or memes. That was one of them, as in take out a different ESP32 board and be like, that's not an ESP32 development board. This is an ESP32 development board.
And you take out this big, massive board. Yeah.
Yeah. I also had another stupid one that was I can't remember the name of that song, but I come from a land down under that your packaging was going to sing that to me, and these were all things that I completely ran out of time, and I was like, oh, I need to just get this video out the door, or it won't be finished before his campaign is finished.
Yeah, a lot of opportunities lost. Yeah, for sure, and some humor there. Yeah.
Missed chances. I have a question for you. What revision did you ship?
So I stopped using revision numbers a while ago. um, I
You
moved
get the
over
spirit
to.
of the question, though.
I started again at revision 1, but it was P. So instead of using R, like revision, whatever, I moved over to P for production boards. So, and I ended up shipping P3. And I probably did, so what I started doing was spinning the number probably when I didn't need to, if that makes sense. I could have absolutely called what I shipped P1, but internally for me, I needed to keep track of all my different things. And it might have even just been a little minor change. I'm currently on P5. We're not going to talk about P4 at all, ever. I'm currently, what I'm working on right now is P5, and I'm just going to, so Rob just asked a question, actually, which is about to go off my screen, which is, apology I already asked, going forward, what's the main focus, continued versions, updates to TinyPICO development, add-on boards, whatever. So this is pertinent to that. So, I've mentioned already that I'm trying to improve manufacturing on the board, and I've been doing that so far without making any actual changes to the board's features or functionality, but in P5 I've actually added something new on the board. It doesn't affect any previous boards, and nothing changes in its functionality, but what I've done, and so yeah, I'm in a bit of turmoil over this because I feel like iterating on what the board, the functionality of the board, is weird now that it's about to go into backers' hands. But I'm going to try it anyway, and we'll see what happens when people find out, I guess, and you're going to find out now. So what I've done is I did some pretty painful rerouting of some of the tracks on the back of the board to make up some space to stick two little tiny pads on the back of the board, one for RX and one for TX, because so the UART wasn't exposed. Either of the hardware UARTs weren't exposed on the TinyPICO, because obviously the USB's there, and 99% of the people don't need the UARTs exposed. And you can use the GPIO matrix to make any IO a UART if you want to. But it was always my plan at some point to see if I could squeeze on those pads, and so I took this opportunity to do it. So P5, which is being manufactured at JLC PCB at the moment, if that board is good, that looks like will be my future production board, and we'll also have some little pads on the bottom. So I am iterating on the design still, which is kind of weird for me, and because I just don't know if that's the right thing to do, or should I save up a whole lot of changes for a version 2? I don't think I'll ever get to a version 2 of the board. Am I working on more shields? Yes, I'd still like to release the ones that I've already tinkered with, and I've got some ideas for other shields I'd like to make. And I'm working on a new boards in the TinyPICO family right now. Already started on, I've already got one in development, which is, yeah. But I also want to build other stuff that isn't TinyPICO. I want to finish my Reflow Master Pro, and I've got other ideas of things I want to build. Yeah.
Good news, Sion. Crowd Supply just invited us to talk at Teardown 2020, an all expenses paid trip, I think, too. What what will your question, or what will your Teardown 2020 talk be on? And same question for Brian. And I assume they're going to pay for it, so that's great. I'll finally get to meet you out in
Yeah.
out in the US.
You heard it here first, everyone. All expenses paid. Oh, they're going,
Whoa,
whoa!
whoa, whoa!
So
There's
I really
true
wanted to go to
woes there.
Teardown 19. For those that don't know, so Crowd Supply hosted a Teardown event, which is it's really a mini hardware conference. And unfortunately for me, my Teardown 2019 happened on my last week of the campaign. In fact, when my campaign finished, okay, I'm going to get in trouble for this one. The day my campaign finished, I had no one from Crowd Supply to talk to because they were all at Teardown. I didn't even get hey, well done, Sion, congratulations, campaign's finished. I got nothing. That's okay.
I said well done.
No, I meant from Crowd Supply. But that's okay. They're at Teardown. I really wanted to go, but I couldn't justify going and being at the conference when my campaign was still running. Not for the last few days. And I'm really bummed. I really wanted to go. There's some awesome people there and some great talks. But 2020, maybe. I'll try to coordinate not having a campaign running at Teardown next year. Yeah.
Yeah, I get serious. Like, it's not remorse or anything. It's I guess it's just straight up like jealousy of like seeing like my social media like explode with like people at teardown and supercons and maker fairs and stuff. It's like, oh, that'd be fun. Uh, but yeah, it's just most of them are just a little bit too far away from me. No, I'm saying that to the guy who's going to travel halfway around the world to go to 2020, apparently. So, yeah, they do look like a lot of fun, and I'm sure they are a lot of fun. So this is an interesting one, and obviously CFE Dundrum won. I wonder,
Yeah.
is that anything to do with Ireland? 'Cause there's a Dundrum in Ireland. If if the Pi 4 has just announced a flaw on the USB-C connector after 5 months of testing, apparently they didn't add resistors when they should have or something. Are you worried that something could pop up in the next few weeks?
What, before people get their boards? I mean, it's too late, right? I don't think anything new is going to pop up. I mean, am I worried that people are going to? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not worried about a hardware design flaw. You know, it's more about people, plugging them in and not understanding what they need to do, like not having their drivers, the Scilab drivers installed, or you know, um, you know, not having the right stuff set up in the Arduino interface or anything. Like, yeah, it's more usability that I'm worried about. I think from a hardware point of view, although I can't possibly imagine how the Pi folks messed the USB-C up. Like, that's really, yeah, we'll leave that for a different time. But there's 1,000 more things complicated on that board than I've got on my TinyPICO. So I'm not too worried. Um, yeah. Although I've never really, I mean, apart from sending out in Australia, I've sent some overseas, but I don't know what's going to happen in terms of shipping. Hopefully, people won't get damaged boards. Like every board's in an anti-static bag, and have got silica gel inside them in case there's moisture. But I don't know what's going to happen with them while they ship. But otherwise, yeah, no, I'm not too worried. Not too worried. I mean, if I'd shipped a million
Yeah,
of them, that'd be bad.
that would be bad. Um, yeah, no, that was a fairly fundamental problem. It just doesn't work with some USB-C chargers, apparently. But sure, look, I don't
Well,
know.
not just
Sure,
chargers, but
we've
cables in general. Yeah, it's
yeah.
yeah,
Look,
pretty
we've all
bad.
been there where you're in the weeds for so long that you're not seeing that the whole house is collapsing around the garden. Yeah, you're just focused on stuff. But okay, are we out of questions? Do people have more questions? Yeah, I don't
I don't know.
know.
Seems not.
Questions are drying up.
That's okay.
Well, we never really answered the 2020 question. What would you like if you were to give a talk about something right now, a TED talk? What would it be?
I don't think I'd want to be honest with you. I mean, I didn't want to go to Teardown to talk. I wanted to go to meet people and mingle and make contacts and face to face people that I chat with on Twitter and stuff. But um,
That's not the spirit of the question.
yeah, like I don't know what would I talk about. I'm happy to talk about my experience, like I guess, like going from zero to manufacturing, like in 4 days, like basically what it was, or a week. I went from, yeah, I went from manual building to a form of automation, basically within a week, while the campaign was running. So that, I'm happy to talk retrospectively about stuff like that, if people are interested. But otherwise, I don't know. Like I still feel like there would be way smarter people at Teardown talking about things that are way more interesting than what I could possibly contribute, and that's what yeah. I'm still not
if
sure that
you
my brain has caught up with my achievements yet.
and if you feel that way, how do the rest of us feel? Yeah. Okay, so crowd supply ESP32S2 project in the pipeline? Question mark.
I do. I do. I've already got. Well, right now it's mostly in my head. I haven't designing. I haven't actually put anything in Eagle yet. Um, I'd like to, absolutely, but I don't know what I would do with it specifically because right now it's the wrong hardware to build a board to kind of compete with myself with a TinyPICO. Like I don't want to make another small board that's different, if that makes sense. And right now there's more value in me using the Pico D4 than there is using the new S2 specifically for like something like the TinyPICO. But I've got some other ESP based things I've been thinking of doing, and there's no reason why I couldn't use an S2 on it instead of a Pico or something else. Um, yeah, I mean the whole what's next for me in terms of a next project, that's been a question in my head for a long time. I don't know. I've got a lot of ideas. I don't know if any of them are really worth pursuing or not. And unfortunately, it doesn't take
I
five
think,
seconds to come up with a design.
yeah, I think it's hard as well with the ESP32 S2. Like, I, it's so unmature at the moment. Like, I don't know if people remember how long like the ESP32 was out before it was usable in the Arduino IDE and you could use Bluetooth. Like
Yep.
there's still features of it not properly implemented, right? Like
Yeah,
is
look, it's
PWM
a
is
work
one
in
of them.
progress. Yeah, absolutely. They're still behind in some of the software stuff that they need to do to either fix some things or introduce some things, and um, they're definitely like especially if they've really lifted their game. Like they've really pushed things way better, and Angus has been doing a lot of that. Um, but yeah, it's still a new chip. Like you got to remember, like it feels like it's been out forever, right? But 2 or 3 or 4 years in the microcontroller space is nothing. And the fact that the ESP32 is so much more advanced than most other chips in the microcontroller space, like in terms of it's let's talk about the dual core, right? It's dual core. It's got Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. It's fast. It's got stacks of RAM and flash. Its capabilities are I guess much harder to develop for than a lot of the other chips out there. So yeah, and also I mean, Espressive, when they started, they weren't making microcontroller chips. And the ESP8266, when it came out, it was never designed to be a standalone microcontroller. Um, so they've had to, in the last, 3 or 4 years or 5 years, really shift their whole everything about how they work as a company and how they present themselves, and the fact that they've gone from a completely closed Chinese company, like black box Chinese company, to a really like open and forward thinking and public facing company, and they've been bringing, lots of, people from outside of the Asian space into the company to help, with communication and stuff. Like they're doing a great job, but they're still young and they're still learning and they make mistakes. I said to Angus, so I was talking to Angus yesterday about the product placement of the S2 because there's been a lot of confusion. Like a lot of people thinking it's a replacement to the ESP32 dual core, like it's the next chip, which it's not. But it's also not quite so they've already got a single core chip in the marketplace, and you'd think the S2 would be the next version of that, but it's also not, right? It's really confusing. So I actually said to Gus, I said maybe your marketing team and your product team should kind of maybe talk to each other a bit and maybe start having meetings because this is a bit confusing. Like where does it sit in the product line? Somewhere around here, but it's an S2, but it's not a second revision of anything. Like it's weird. A lot of confusion, but they're learning. They'll get there.
I think it's funny as well, like even the overall name for Espressive's chips, like the ESP8266 and the ESP32, like they're not great like in terms of like I think a lot of what Arduino did right was just like, hey, we know that there's this chip that has these digits on it, forget about it, it's an uno, it's a nano, like just hey,
Right, but
this is
that's the
easy to
board though.
remember.
That's the board, but the
Hmm?
chip on it, the microcontroller chip on it's still got a weird name. Like that's the board. That's like
Yeah, yeah, that's true, like
I
but
mean,
isn't
I prefer ESP32 than STM32 dash blah 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 F7, like, or blah 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 F4 or M4 or H4 or H7, like, you know what I mean? Like, at least,
Mm.
it's shorter, and it's like, I mean, you look at, like, STM have got what, 100 chips in their range. Microchip have got what, 5 billion chips in their range now. They've been buying everyone, and they've just got, they've got like at least a million just PIC processors, right? Like, I mean, right now, especially if they've only got a few chips in their range, and already people are finding it confusing with their naming. But at least they're not
Mm.
like a code that you need to go look on the internet every time to understand what the chip is.
Yeah, I guess like the it's not really them. I guess it's more that there was never really a standard like board that had them on it, like as in there was no de facto ESP8266 board, like as in that could be easily remembered by one name and that you could always refer back to this as like, hey, when you need support, go look at this. Say it was the Huzzah board, like, or the
Yep.
Feder Huzzah, just go look up the Feder Huzzah. You don't need to remember this code. Like, I've been saying the ESP8266's name to my wife for 3 years. She still wouldn't remember it, like, wouldn't
Right.
have a clue. She'd know an Uno if I said an Uno, like, so, yeah. Um, okay, we're waffling. Embedded Hobbyist said no question, just a big well done.
Thank
Tiny
you.
LED Matrix is saying, are you going to SuperCon?
Um, Again, I'd love to. Right now. I've got no plans of traveling. Every time SuperCon's coming up, I say, this year I'm going to go. This year I'm going to go, but then I never do. Um, a lot of it is to do with cost. Flying out from Australia to the States is expensive, and accommodation and stuff. But just also, um, yeah, I got enough to keep me here at home with things that, challenges here, and I need to keep pushing forward with what I'm doing. So yeah, I'd like to. I don't know. I mean, it was the same when I was making games. I'm going to go to this conference, going to go to that conference, but I just very rarely did. It always seemed to be a lot of effort.
Uh, Crowd Supply said that your experiences would be invaluable at Teardown. The hookup said, yeah, you've imposter syndrome. You got to get over that.
I do. I
Um,
do. I know I do.
James Robinson said, huge thanks for letting us follow along with your project. Crowd Supply have asked for a quick tour of your workshop. I don't know how attached to your PC your camera is. I'd
Of my
imagine it's
work.
pretty
Oh,
attached.
yeah. This I'm wide. The camera's wide. I can't. Yeah, that's not gonna. I mean, I can move my head out the way, maybe. Hang on. Yeah, there's not really a lot to see. Picking places. Oops. Back there. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Maybe I'll do I did a tour a little while ago. I think might do one in the future. I don't know. There's really not a lot to see.
Uh, Michael was saying that the reason they're asking is to see your secret alpha stage projects accidentally come into view.
Mine.
Um, yeah.
No. There's nothing to see. I don't have any alpha stage. No.
You've been too busy.
I'm not that type of workshop, really. It's all in Eagle, in software. It goes from there to built. So, I don't know. Nothing really to see.
David Watts, any chance you can make a version I can solder by hand?
Um, no. Sorry, Dave.
You just have to
No.
get good at soldering.
Yeah, just get better at solder. Come on, I can hand solder 0402 now. Come on. I don't want to, but I can.
Uh, I don't think it was that they wanted to see my shop, Michael. I think it was
Yeah, I thought
more
it was
that
your
they
shop
wanted.
too. Yeah, come on.
Uh, it's such a mess at the moment. So there's my whiteboard where all my secret projects go. There is my storage facility. Do I have anything up there that I can't show? No. Here is my shelf of Tindy products and Tenacious D album, apparently. And that's my tour. Really, I don't know if I can show you anything else. Um, yeah, there's lab tour done. Secret
Done.
secret lab tour. Wow, there's a lot of references to me now. Crowd Spy, can we get it? Yes. Okay. Um, Unexpected Maker. Don't know if CS do it, but would you prefer to outsource the packaging and just send build boards? Built
Um,
boards.
I mean, maybe Crowd Supply might have packaged them, but I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that there would be a fee with that. Um, because they take time. Like, there's a lot of, unfortunately, there's a lot of work to package them up. I didn't make my packaging simple, but I made it nice. Because I think presentation is very important. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a time sink, I guess. But what I liked about the way I did it is I know exactly what everyone's going to get, right? Like I can check every single thing. Like maybe I won't do this on my second campaign or my third or my fifth. I don't know. Maybe I will. But for me, it was very important. Oh, what's Brian doing? What have you grabbed?
How up to date is the packaging that I got? Like,
I
has
probably
it
would have been
changed much
close,
since then?
but I'm not got here somewhere. Mm.
I think it's backwards for people though. That's the only thing.
Yeah,
There
like
is
I've
a
got.
note
I
about
mean,
there
hang
is a
on.
note about the issue with a revision that you fixed.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my. So oops, wrong camera. There's a single pack, and there's a 2-pack. So if you ordered a 2-pack, you get one of those. If you ordered a 4-pack, you get 2 of these. I did that just to save space in shipping. So there's cards in there, and there's all the bits that go in there, and then there's the label and stuff. Whoa, Ryan. Yeah, it's an old one. It's a green one. And then all my shields are packaged the same. They've all got, bags with stuff in them and labels and whatever. I mean, it's just, it takes time, but presentation's important. I mean, it's the same reason I probably would never, get a CM in China to do my packaging for me and ship it, because I want to see it. Like, I want to be able to check them first, at least for my first campaign.
Are these? Is this your actual signature?
So
Matt
Brian has
signature?
got Matt and my actual signature, but in the end, we had to digitally print them because there were just too many to do. Yes, that is my actual signature. You can now go and log into my internet banking. But yeah, they look close, but that's really not focused very well. See if I can focus that. But yeah, I had to make them digital in the end because there were just too many. We thought we'd still try. Oh, that is not focusing.
No. No fun. TinyPICO reversed.
What was that? What?
It's just my camera is reversed to people.
Oh right,
So,
okay.
uh,
So the hookup asked a question, and I think he asked it before earlier. Missed it. Why do you think so many content creators tune into my streams? Percentage seems to be high. I don't know. I don't know. And honestly, a lot of the people that tune into, I also tune into, but I feel like they're a few levels above me. Like as content, Bilooni's here. As content creators and skill sets and stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm totally appreciative, and I love that there's an awesome bunch of makers and creators here, and not like I'm appreciative of everyone here. I think I've never hidden the fact that I think the community is awesome. But yeah, I don't know why. Maybe someone
I'm
can
here
tell me.
because I have to be.
Well, today you have to be. Yes.
No, it's great. Like, where else do you get insight to what people are doing, kind of week to week, right? Like, as in even so, like I used to stream regularly, but I approached it very differently to you, and like I think your one resonates better with people. Like I was trying to do like micro projects every week,
Yeah.
and sometimes I'd continue on other stuff, but I think like people would prefer to see a longer journey, like the Tidy Pico has been, like, and like whether people agree or disagree with that. Like the numbers you get per stream do not lie. Like as you've gone on with your TinyPICO project, your numbers have gone up and up and up. And like you get numbers on your streams that people with much larger channels would be very envious of. So I think if the
Thanks.
show is good, people will come. So yeah, that's why I'm here, anyways.
I think for some of it, the I think some people just come to see what misfortunes I'll have in my stream week to week,
That's true.
which is fine. And I've never kind of hidden any of those. So there's a yeah, there's a level of what disaster is going to happen this week, which I think is good viewing. But I don't do it intentionally, obviously. Like I will never intentionally build a wrecked project just for entertainment, because that's just frustrating. That'd be and a waste of money. But yeah, it happens. I try to be quite transparent if I can.
Saket Dandawat asked, "Do you need any help with the software for your TinyPICO?"
Um, I'm almost there. That's been helping me a little bit there as well. I'm hoping other people will write software and contribute. Like I hope that there's a lot of people on my streams and a lot of people out there that write Arduino libraries for ESP32. I'm hoping that there'll be people who will write some maybe MicroPython stuff around the TinyPICO as well. That'd be nice. But otherwise, yeah, I'll just keep doing that myself while I need to, and while I enjoy it as well. Yeah.
Bitlooney asks, "Do you even lift, bro?"
Do I even what?
Lift? It's a meme
Do I
joke.
lift? Oh, right, I get it. Yes. Do I? No.
Do you lift,
Okay.
bro? Uh, is there anything else here? John McRae asks, "What was Matt's role in the project?"
Um, tricky one to answer. Yeah, like Matt was really software side and was there, I guess, as a mentor for me through the project. Um, so mentor, advice, sounding board, um, and the software side where I was more the hardware side, but I ended up doing a lot of the software as well. So and that just really came down to a timing thing. Um, it's just as it turned out, Matt just got super busy with a lot of stuff that he was doing that he just couldn't get a lot of time. So um, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like I'll always say that we're both like the campaign's both of us. The campaign wouldn't have existed without him. The TinyPICO wouldn't have existed without him at the start. But probably like in terms of all the actual development and production and everything else, it's been me. So but that's cool. I'm very happy with that.
Okay, here's a question. How does it feel having a maker community that not only loves and follows your work, but also enjoys talking to yous, seeing the kids, talking about home life, etc., etc.?
Um, the fact that many of you have embraced my family, I think it's awesome and amazing, and I'm really appreciative of that. Having the whole community like that loves and follows your work thing, that's I'll never be comfortable with that. So I don't know how to answer that one. Because I'm still in awe of most of the people that I follow and most of the people in the community here. So yeah, that's kind of a circular thing. But yeah, I think it's great. Like you know, I know my kids come on the stream so they can tell their friends that they're on my stream. So they're not necessarily here for the right reasons. But yeah, I think it's nice, and I'd like to not all the time, but have them on the stream now and then. Maybe if I ever get to 10,000 subs, we'll do maybe Yaz can host my AMA. Although I wouldn't trust any questions. I wouldn't trust her. I don't think.
I'll tune into that one.
Yeah, that could go really bad. Like, hey, Sion, so have you done the dishes? Yeah. But no, it's good. I think it's been nice. I like when they pop in now and again.
It's funny how like I don't know, like YouTube was not a thing whatsoever when like we were growing up. Uh, And like all of a sudden that it's now like the thing that people want to be. They don't want to be footballers anymore. They want to be YouTubers. And like even say like we realistically in the grander scheme of YouTubers, we are insignificant, right? It just
Sure.
numbers wise. Uh like last year I met Mike Swan, who we see in the chat often enough. He's one of the regulars. He was saying that like his kids were talking about having met a YouTuber like for a few days
Yeah.
afterwards, talking about me. Like it's like
Really?
what? It's
Yeah.
just like what's that about? Like that is weird to me, but that's the world we live in now.
Yeah.
Uh yeah. Okay, Evan Kale asks, "Hey Sion, what made you go from games to hardware?"
Okay. I mean, yeah, I've mentioned this a few times. I was over making games. Wasn't enjoying the space, the ecosystem anymore of building things not for entertainment but for you know ad views and click rates, click rates and stuff. So and I was just up for a new challenge, and a lot of that is driven by my, I guess it turns out, my ADHD, which I've only recently been diagnosed with, which explains why I jump around a lot, looking for new challenges all the time. So it was a space that I've always been interested in electronics, and I was never really good at it because I never really invested any time in it. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm over making games, and I don't really want to do corporate software for a living. So what else is there? Maybe I'll try this hardware thing, start playing with hardware, and look what's happened. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I still can't believe it myself. So when I started, I had no expectation. Like when I got my first microcontroller, I had no expectation that I'd be sitting here with a YouTube channel, chatting with other makers and having just run a campaign. So my mind is still blown, and I'm still catching up. So
Is some of the things that you need to do like in games in terms of like you're in crowded marketplaces and you're trying to make yourself stand out, and like do you find that those skill sets transfer over to YouTube? Because you have the same thing, right? That you've this little small icon that you need to make people go, oh, that might be worth checking out. And I guess that would have been the same previously too,
yeah,
right?
it is. But I guess my thing with the YouTube when I started it was never about, oh, I want to become a big YouTube celebrity with a massive subscriber base, making money off YouTube, like living off YouTube. That was never my aim. My YouTube for me started to make myself finish projects, like giving myself a reason to finish and to make the videos was my way of not breaking out of that lull, if that makes sense. So I started it for a different reason, but I still when I launched the channel, I made sure that I presented it as well as I could, because that's just part of me. I've been running my businesses my whole life. But I definitely think that I've taken all of that and carried that over to the hardware side, like in terms of what I feel my minimum requirements are to be able to ship a product in terms of my presentation and supporting material and everything, and everything from a logo to like my tagline, like a tiny mighty ESP32 development board. Like, who puts taglines on their products in the hardware space? No one, right? But I just, but that's my business and my marketing side that I've had to learn because I've always run my own businesses, and so to me it's just a natural extension of what I'm doing. Um, yeah, like I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of people in the hardware space should be doing that more often, both big and small. I think presentation is really important. Um, yeah, whether the end consumer realizes it or not, it's still important how you present yourself. So yes, on the YouTube space and social media though, I don't even know if it's worth the effort. Like it's impossible to gauge. You know, I think.
One thing that like bothers me about it is, say, someone like if if Bitlooney, who's doing this full time, and makes all this amazing stuff, isn't at like something like 100,000 subscribers, which is kind of what I would think you probably need to do it full time, then like what hope is there for the rest of us? So yeah, it's definitely a really difficult area.
Yeah, I
But
mean, definitely the makers. I mean, obviously, there's, if you want to get a million subs on YouTube, you don't do electronics and making. Like you need to do a completely different type of video to appeal to a very different type of marketplace. Um, what I love about the maker communities on YouTube specifically, but in general, but on YouTube specifically, is that apart from BitLooney, like everyone's just making what they want to make and presenting what they want to make. You know what I mean? You know, BitLooney's the only guy that goes chasing after the big bucks. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Just doing a bit of a rib. Payback time. No, like we all kind of tend to just make what we want to make, and we release the videos we want to release, and like it's less about chasing the big, that big video, that viral thing. Like we all want our videos to do well, but like Mark Rober, like he's obviously a maker, and he makes some fantastic videos, like he really does, and his subscriber count and his video views, like he's got videos that have got 50 million views or even more now. I don't know, like it's nuts. But again, like it might look like he's trying to make viral videos, but he's not. Like his videos go viral, but he's just making really interesting videos that are really well done and presented really well, really easy to follow and understand, that are really enjoyable to watch. And Julian's back. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't look like in his videos that he's trying to chase that viral thing where you look like someone like and I'm not picking at all. Don't get me wrong, but what's Michael's surname? You know,
Reeves.
yeah, Michael Reeves, right? Like he makes videos about shooting himself in the eye with lasers and robots that swear and whatever else, and they're cool, fun videos. But you can kind of see that his pitch is about trying to get something that will virally take off, rather than there's nothing instructional in his videos, there's nothing reproducible in his videos, and so and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Like don't get me wrong, that's what he wants to make, that's what he wants to make. But yeah, I love the fact that the maker community are building what they want to make, and if they get 300 views on the video, so be it. Like you know what I mean? Like it doesn't stop them from doing it, which I think is really cool.
Bitlooney Lab asked a question that I'm going to modify on his behalf to put it into a stream format because we're running pretty long. Uh, Earth is exploding. Elon has a seat for you going to Mars, but you can only pack 3 things of hardware into your suitcase. What would you take?
My Mac, um, and 3 things of hardware. Oh wow.
Well, the Mac is one of them, right?
Yeah. Okay. My Mac, um, a soldering iron, and God, I don't know. A pair of pliers. Is that what we meant? Or are we talking about electronics hardware? I don't know.
Yeah, a soldering iron will be useful for you in space with no solder. Uh,
Okay.
I don't
Well,
know.
so what? Okay. Okay. What about a solar panel? A phone? Yeah,
That'd be
great, with no
that'd be
reception, with
useful.
no.
A solar panel would be really useful, I'd say. A lot more useful than a soldering iron.
Okay, whatever. I don't know. Okay, next. Next, I'm
Plug
gonna
the
pay you back for
soldering
that one,
iron into
Billy.
the socket up in Mars. John Raymond is insulting my pronunciation of tree. I'm gonna start pronouncing it tree from now on. 3. Okay. What?
Bottled water's not
What?
hardware, Julian.
Depends on
Sorry,
if you
go
have
on.
soft water or hard water. When do you stop improving something and move on? Do you ever have the satisfaction that it's finally done?
Never, never. It was no different with games, and it's no different with hardware. You always think of new things and better things and tweaking things, and like my designs, like my routing, is important to me. Like I'm not the world's best router, but like I'll constantly be tweaking tracks on my boards to make them look prettier. So yeah, I don't know. Like for me, yeah, it's never done. It's never finished. Whether I move on to a new revision, so let the old revision alone, or whether I keep tweaking that. You know what I mean? Like when I say new revision, like a new design or something, like I did with my Reflow Master recently. I went to a completely different laid out board, same functionality. But yeah, no, you're never finished. Like if you ever get to the point where what you've done is good enough for you, then you've stopped. I feel you've stopped trying to learn and get better. Like if there's ever a space ever that you can never get to the maximum knowledge in, it's this maker space, like electronics, not just electronics, maker in general, but specifically electronics. Like if you ever get to the point where you're not learning anymore, yeah, you shouldn't be in that space anymore. And for me, it's all about getting better and improving. So, yeah. What's so
Uh,
funny?
Unexpected Maker, what are your favorite 3 trees?
So I didn't hear the question. What was that? Sorry.
What are your
Leave Brian alone,
favorite
everyone. Stop
three
it.
trees? Three trees. Also, if you want to make an Irish person say stupid things, it's 33 and a third is
33 and a third.
which is dirty tree and a third is
A
how,
dirty tree
how
and a turd. Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty
is
funny.
how we pronounce that. Um, yeah, I think that's it in terms of questions. Yeah, which trees can you freeze? I don't know. Yeah, well, I don't know. Sion, do you want to finish up?
Yeah,
Um,
I think how long have we been going for? Wow, it's been 2 hours with all the technical difficulties. Yeah, unless anyone's got any more questions, thanks. It's been awesome. Thank you all to anyone here that's backed the project. I really appreciate it, and thanks for all your questions and following along on the journey. It's been pretty cool. It's not over yet for me. I'm still making more TinyPICOs and will continue making TinyPICOs and working on new TinyPICOs. Thanks, Brian, for hosting. It was awesome, even with the
no
echo
problem.
echo. Everyone go buy a panda. It's not, but you know
No,
what? It's not a sad panda. It's a happy panda. You should have made him
it's,
frown. Oh,
he's happy. He's
wait,
happy.
Julian didn't ask you, but okay. Julian wants to know my middle name. My middle name is. You're not going to be able to. Whatever. My middle name is Moshe or Moish, Moshe. There you go. That is my middle name. There you go, Julian.
So
You now know it.
between your middle name and your signature, what accounts do you think we can break into?
All of them. Hack them all. Hack
What's
them
your
all.
social security number?
We don't have one. We don't do social security here in Australia. We have no security in Australia.
We don't have like the thing we have isn't called a social security number, but we do have an equivalent of one.
Well, we've all got,
PPSN.
I guess, we've got tax file numbers.
Yeah.
I guess the way they track us, or the way the accountants track us, make sure we pay our taxes, and Medicare numbers, which is our medical stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I always feel weird. Social security number. Like how in any way are you socially secure having a number
Evan has
that they
just
can
said
track you?
that now. Social security is an oxymoron. I
Yeah.
actually have a social security number. Um, yeah, I yeah. I was gonna make a joke about like you have your Medicaid number or whatever. Like Americans don't need to worry about that, but it's
No, no,
not
they don't.
not really my position to be
Too
making
soon.
jokes,
Yeah.
political jokes on your streams. But well, look,
Sylvain just asked an interesting question. Have I spoken to Lion Tech about a smaller package PS RAM? Um, yeah, there's. I don't think they can get any smaller PS RAM. Just a limitation on what it is, unfortunately. Even their WSON, whatever their package is that they've got, is actually bigger than the SOIC I'm using. Yeah, I've been searching everywhere. No one makes RAM smaller, so I don't think I'll be able to. Not for the quantities I'm doing. Maybe if I ordered 100,000, maybe they might do it. But
Am I
yes,
am I remembering this incorrectly, or do you not like Star Wars?
me.
Yeah.
So of course I love Star Wars. What are you talking about?
Okay, that's fine.
And my
There's
kids,
someone
my
else,
Flynn
so
watches like Star Wars movies like every day or every second day. He's constantly just
okay.
flipping, jumping between different Star Wars movies. No, I'm a big sci-fi fan.
Okay, so what's your midi-chlorian count, or however you pronounce that?
My midi-chlorian count, 0. I have
You're
no
no
Jedi
Jedi.
skills at all. I can't convince my kids to do anything I ask. I can't convince. Well, I'll leave you guys out of this
Yes, I will
conversation.
do the dishes later.
Yeah.
What?
So yes, like, how often do I get phone calls from Japan? Never. What? No one likes Star Wars episode. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Jar Jar Binks. Sorry, I gotta say it. Didn't do it for me. Yeah. So all I'm saying, thank you very much to Crowd Supply for joining. Was it you, Daryl? I don't know who it was. Anyway, thank you for jumping on the chat. I really appreciate it and helping answer people's questions. And again, I can't like if you want to do a crowdfunding campaign, I really can't recommend them enough. Like it was really a fantastic project and fantastic experience. So yeah. So there's going to be no more Tuesday streams. No, I'm gonna keep streaming. I'm not gonna stop. I might even make some more videos. There might be a video for me on Friday. Can't wait for my TinyPICO so I can put it into Brian Locke's TinyPICO matrix board. Yay! And don't forget, BitLooney also has his VGA board, his TinyPICO VGA board, and I'm very excited about it. Don't think Adam is here. I'm trying to remember his surname. Anyway, he's making an amazing audio board for the TinyPICO as well. Something really, really cool. Anyway, there's some cool stuff coming out. Yeah, I think it's time to wrap up, Brian. Yes, you need to go to bed, don't you?
Uh, Julian has made the daddest joke of all of all time.
The
The
moshi
Japanese
moshi.
people, Muchi. I guess that's a reference to your middle name. I don't know.
Yes, it
Muchi.
is. Ah, Julian. Ah,
I
right, now I
appreciate your
understand
dad
the
humor.
calls from Japan. I get it now, right. Moshi moshi. Yep. Cool. Yep. No, I don't. Sorry. No one knew my middle name till now. I'm going to regret this forever, aren't I? It's going to haunt me forever.
Middle names are so pointless. I'm just throwing that out there.
Most people can't pronounce my first name, let alone my middle name. So there you go. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everyone. Been an awesome stream. If there are any more questions that you've forgotten to ask, just put them in the comments below. And yeah, like see you all next week, I guess. You wanna say
Yeah,
anything,
and by the
Brian?
time we host the next one, we'll have the audio down. So we had only hearing through speakers the last time. Now you can hear me twice. Next time it's gonna be perfect.
So when's the next time going to be? 1 million subs?
Well, I thought maybe
And
10K subs
3,049?
for you, but yours is replacing me apparently. So out of
No, I said that
work.
for 100,000 subs, which is going to take me about, what, 14 and a half years to get there?
That sounds about fair.
Sounds
Yeah.
about right, yeah. Okay. That's
Yeah, well, cool. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Brian. Catch you all later. Thank you. Have a nice week.